It's Wednesday, September 10th, 2014. I'm Jimmy Principe.
And I'm Trey Comstock, putting your final orders because this is Tech's Last Call, episode 88, your last call for Tech News of the Week. Tonight, Jimmy wraps his man hands around Apple, and I Apple Pay for an Apple Watch. So if you haven't figured it out, we start tonight and continue tonight with really the only news story of the week that matters.
Let's be serious. There's nothing else that's going on this week.
There's nothing, and if anyone has anything else going on, they are a fool, because the tech news press wants to talk about one thing, and one thing only. Edward, no! Apple. Apple is here. Apple has finally fought back through the years of, that's not really an improvement. That's not really a new phone. When is Apple going to release a new device? Now Apple is to release a new device.
Not one, not two, three.
3 new devices. One is an entirely new category for them, where they are set to actually define a market once again. So we'll start with what we thought was the iWatch, but it is not. We will start where Apple... It's not called the iWatch. It's called the Apple Watch.
And we're going to that naming scheme in general, though.
Yeah, well, Apple TV. Let's think of let's think of the devices that have come out subsequent to the iPad, which is the last of the iDevices. So we had.
To be fair, there was an Apple TV prior.
But it was awful.
It looked like a Mac Mini.
Looked like a Mac Mini. Well, no, I guess that's true. They released iCloud subsequent to iPad. So, okay. I can... So it's Apple Pay and Apple Watch and Apple TV and Mac. And they dropped the I's from... years ago, they dropped the I's from everything but the iMac.
Well, okay, but think about it. So, with the exception of the Apple TV, because iTV, I think, is actually just a trademark problem.
Yeah, it is. It's a British very prominent British television
exactly.
network.
That's one that they were like, we're not going to pick that fight. But I think that with Apple Watch and Apple Pay, neither of them are nearly as reliant on the internet. Or like specifically the watch is one.
Yeah, but the I never meant internet. The I never did.
Or was it the personal?
It was the iMac and the iPod. I mean, they both... the iPod, when it first came out, there wasn't an iTunes store.
Oh, so
it was rip your CDs to your iMac, and the PC was the hub of your world.
Yeah, that's right.
So it was more about the personal and the cute and the in-joke that Steve Jobs was, when the iMac was released, was the interim CEO or the iCEO. And so there was a whole in-joke with that.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
So that's where it never. I didn't mean internet. It meant personal. It was the kind of the Apple branding around this cute looking, overly designed thing that didn't have a floppy disk drive and so had no writable media. Sorry, that was the original iMac.
So Trey, tell me about this Apple Watch though.
Yeah. So.
Not the iWatch.
Not Jeff Green's review of the iMac from the late 90s?
No, actually.
Not what we're talking about. That's not the lead here?
That's not the lead.
When he talked about throwing it out the window because you could... Really? Okay. Okay, I'll talk about...
Now for something completely different.
So, Apple is...
not.
Well, Apple's going to release a wearable. They announced it. It is the Apple Watch. It is a rectangle with rounded corners because it's an Apple device, so it's a rectangle with rounded corners. I hate to tell you, they only make except for the trash can, they only have made rectangles with rounded corners. And the trash can is admittedly an oddity. It's just itself a rounded corner. Focus, Comstock.
Focus, Comstock.
Shoot my script. Okay, so let me try to run this down because it's a big story. Let's start with the real lead. Not coming out this month. Coming out sometime early 2015.
And we don't have all the details on it.
We don't have all the details yet. Base price $349. Apple announced that.
We'll go up from there.
3 different models: the Apple Watch, the Apple Watch Sport, and the Apple Watch Edition. Apple Watch stainless steel case. Apple Watch Sport aluminum case, super light. Apple Watch Edition 18-karat gold case. I will bet you that does not cost $349.
Also has the dumbest name. Apple Watch Edition.
That's
really?
The fashion industry for you, and that shows the fashion industry influence on this device.
The fact that it comes in gold.
Right. 2 different sizes, one for men like me and women.
So I looked this up, actually. So, I've got the Pebble Steel, right?
Yep.
The Pebble Steel looks like a normal-sized device on a normal man's wrist. So the Pebble Steel is 46 millimeters tall.
Okay.
The larger of the 2 devices is 42 millimeters tall.
So it's going to be perfect. So I could actually buy the 42 millimeter one and be perfectly comfortable.
Yeah, you'll look like a normal person.
It's relatively thick. I mean, anyone who says it looks pretty substantial, but so this is my normal watch, and if you notice, it is
pretty chunky.
It's pretty chunky, but it looks okay on what I admit is I have dainty wrists. This is particularly my left wrist, which is the one I broke years ago. So it's running its own operating system. We believe it's a derivation of iOS, but it's going to have its own apps ecosystem. It's going to have all kinds of customizability, five or six different customizable bands, which look fabulous.
It has a really interesting kind of way that the band snaps into the chassis of the watch. It's kind of an angled. It comes in at a slight angle and looks like it slides in on the sides. They're going to be custom Apple bands that you're not going to be able to get any old band and use it on this.
But they have a wide variety. Chain link metal, normal like mine, like this. The rubber or plastic for the sport.
Right.
Leather.
They'll have leather.
Quilted leather. Kind of what you want. And the bands look great. The watch.
You're not going to be wanting for choices on bands. It's just you can only get them from Apple, or they can only be specifically designed for the Apple Watch.
Sure, fine. I mean, that doesn't bother me.
Right. No, that's just it's a statement of fact. It's not. I'm not providing.
I'm going to use my dumb watch to illustrate my next point. So if you're watching the video version, this will make a lot more sense. So the thing that juts out, I learned a lot about watches yesterday. The thing that juts out to wind your watch or to set the time in an analog watch is called a crown. The Apple Watch will be controlled using what they call a digital crown. It's basically just the crown, but it's going to be the main control surface for the watch, controlling zooming and scrolling, basically like a jog dial on my Sony.
Zooming and scrolling is what it is.
Zooming and scrolling, but it will also have a touchscreen, voice command via Siri. So we're going to dig into this. Let's give the 1,000-foot view. Instead of going for the limited smartwatch approach, Apple went for let's do like a Pebble Steel. Apple has more functionality than Android Wear.
Than anyone.
And in a more refined chassis than anyone. The watch is made. It has a heart rate monitor on the back. All of the features anyone has does require an iPhone. But this is a full horsepower thing. So let's get into actually talking about this. Jimmy, what's your impression of the iWatch?
So I'm going to push back a little bit on the comment about it's the most refined. I would say that the Moto 360 is fairly no.
So I made that
interface wise, you're right. I'm not going to disagree with you on that. But I'm going to say that as far as the Moto 360 is less adventurous, or is less of a Hail
watch?
Mary. So no, it's less of a Hail Mary in that it comes. I don't think that its bands are proprietary. I think you can use any band you want on it. But it comes in black or silver, like most of them have. But it has a machined. It's a machined kind of look. I mean, it's less of trying to introduce an entire line of watches and more introducing one watch.
Right, but I mean
that can be expanded for you.
Obviously, neither of us read the demo in the massive Apple tent. But so a guy, one of the reporters was wearing a Moto 360 when he was making his report. It's like, this is the most refined thing in the space.
Interesting.
because also like the crown, the digital crown has like a very precise mechanical feel. It feels solid like a watch. The screen is sapphire. The body is either stainless steel, gold, or machined aluminum. Like, we are talking about, they took craftsmanship. They're doing what Apple does and taking craftsmanship to the next level. And this makes the Samsung and the LG look like plastic crap. It doesn't make the Moto 360. By the way, it does not make the Moto 360 look ridiculous, right? The Moto 360, I think, is the one that holds up the best, and I think it's currently its main competition. I don't, I'm not. I'm not
just
using
came out. It came out a week ago.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not. Yeah, actually, I think it came to consumers this week. No, it was last week.
You could buy it last Friday.
Yeah, last Friday. It was subsequent to our most recent show.
Actually.
So I don't think the Moto 360 looks ridiculous, but I think Apple has released a device that is desirable. I don't think it's too thick. Chunky watch. The fashion industry will tell you chunky watches are in.
They are.
And this is chunky, but it's not huge. If it's smaller than in terms of width, if it's smaller than a Pebble Steel, then it's not huge, because I don't think the Pebble Steel is being huge. Height. It's not huge.
It's a little lighter.
Sure.
But
it has a Retina display.
I'm looking at them next to each other. Yeah. Well, it has a Retina display, but so do all of the LCD. All the LCD screens are in that kind of PPI range. The thing I think is most interesting. So I like the idea, the digital crown. I like the idea of it looks like an interesting device. I'm obviously not going to buy one of these things, but that's just because I don't have an iPhone. So what's the point? I think that
works with iPhone 5 and up, which is huge.
Works with iPhone 5 and up,
which is more than any of the Samsung watches can say.
No, it's true.
Because usually they're very narrow device range. And this is opening it up the fire
So
hose.
the thing is, I think that lines up pretty well with the Android versions you can have for the Android Wear. I think it's 4.2 and up is Android
2
Wear.
years.
Yeah, so it covers, theoretically it covers the last 2 years, but
this is Android, so
there are issues. But anyways, I think they're trying to do too much is my concern. If anyone can do it, they can do it.
Right.
I'm not going to say that they can't do it. I am just concerned. So one of the things that you and I have discussed before, and we've discussed on this show, is that it seems that the target for these things, what I really want is I want a Pebble Steel with, this is going to have better kind of quality as far as craftsmanship and things like that.
It's fantastic.
So I want a Pebble Steel with the heart rate monitor stuff.
Yeah.
That's what I want. And
that is not what you're getting.
That's not what I'm getting. I'm getting this whole app ecosystem. So when you can zoom out and it shows it as a bunch of dots.
Yeah, which is worrying how usable that's going to be.
Yeah, it's how usable. I'm thinking about how that would look on my tiny watch, and depending on how many you have, I think that would be really what it is.
But yeah,
and how people were commenting on, you can't enter text on it. You jerk! Do you want to enter text on it? No,
but you can draw little.
I want to talk to it.
You can draw little scribble messages, or you can send people your heart rate.
That is cool and creepy.
You can send people your heart rate and little you can draw little things in your watch, little heart. It's great for flirting.
Taptic feedback.
No, so it has they're calling it
engine.
Taptic engine, which is basically, it means it'll vibrate the watch. So the cool thing about the Taptic engine is, so say you're getting directions on your iWatch, which I think is actually a great use for the iWatch, is showing directions. Instead of having to walk with your watch like this, it will Taptic vibrate when you need to turn, when you need to make a direction change. That's really useful. So say I'm driving and I don't want to have my phone down here.
I'm going to need to test that, because there is a navigational app for my Pebble, and I just kind of laughed at it. I was like, why would I want that?
But that
could be useful.
You don't have the tourist problem, right? So you're walking around looking at your phone. That's suspect already. You're holding a huge map. No, this way, I'm watching. I just look at my watch and I see. I think that looked like a use case where I might want more functionality than just show me my text messages, show me my email, show me my calls, give me another way to interact with Siri.
Right.
And it has kind of a notifications function, and the S1 processor. I mean, we can go on and on. This, Apple spent.
It's got lots and lots and lots of. They spent half of their keynote talking about
They
this.
did introduce it in the classic way. Oh, and one more thing.
And one more thing.
Standing O for the O and one more thing. That's the first time they've. This is the first time they released an entirely new product line since the death of Steve Jobs.
Yeah.
This is Tim Cook's first true product line announcement. I mean, obviously he's done these things where he's introduced new iterations, but this is the first time they released a new product since the death of Steve. And
he was the one that drove the whole presentation.
Right,
with some small exceptions. But
and he, and just dragging out that O and one more thing, that does kind of make you feel good on the inside. That is just one of those like dog whistle things for Apple fans. We're just like, yeah, we hear it.
It gives you that nice little like warm fuzzy.
I was just kind of when they did that, I was like, "F you, Apple!" Like F you. Like I am smiling. It's like when they revealed like how thin the new iMacs were. It was like, I feel this is ridiculous. Like, why do I feel these things? Why do I?
Let's see what else is in this. So it's got NFC.
Yeah. Okay. So I was going to talk about that more with the Apple Pay. So you'll be able to pay. They also announced Apple Pay. We'll talk about it more in detail in a minute. But you won't just be able to tap the phone to the thing. You'll be able to tap the watch to the thing.
So that's useful. I think the thing that they did not talk about that I need to know about is battery life. They claimed that it could do a full day, but
has wireless charging.
Everyone has the wireless charging works very much the way that all wireless charging works. There's a thing that sticks on the back of it,
but it's magnets, and
but
it's
it has
clean.
It has a nice like machine circle on the back, where the mag charger goes.
And it just sits on top of the optical, the sensors for the heart rate.
Yeah, it covers up all that stuff. So it's
whatever. Slick.
Mag charging is the only way to go for wireless charging on this thing. Like that's the only way you can do this. What else do we have on this thing? I don't know. It looks like it'll be a really nice watch, but I don't know. We need to see the rest of it, and I can't wait till the spring. We're gonna do here on the show. We're gonna do a more in depth about whatever. I will get whatever the best. Deemed by us, whatever the best Android Wear, whatever the biggest competitor to it is.
And I'm gonna get probably I'm gonna get the basic one. I don't want the sport. I don't want to pay for the sport, and I obviously am not going to pay $1,000. What we think is $1,000 for the edition.
Now, I'm curious if the sport will be. The sport should be about the same price.
No, the sport is
the steel the sport is waterproof too, right?
Well, I don't know. That wasn't clear from my notes. The sport is made of slightly better material, so I think the sport is lighter. The big thing with the sport is it's lighter. Right. They're all going to have the same kind of internal technology, right? The heart rate monitor, the blah blah blah. But the sport seems to be kind of specifically lighter. Seems like it's going to be more focused on the bigger one. Yeah. So
they come up with on that. I need to see how the pricing breaks down on this thing. That's starting at $349. That could either be really awesome or really concerning, because if you go, for the normal sized one, if that starts at $449.
Well, what do you think of this normal size one? The bigger one. If it starts at probably starts at whether they probably do $50. So starting at $350, they probably do $50 price increments. So it probably starts at $400. Would be my bet.
I mean, that is a lot for a watch.
Yeah, that's a lot for a smartwatch.
It's a lot for a watch.
Sure.
No.
No.
For the space that is playing in, the other watches that it's competing against, it's got
twice what I paid for my current watch.
That's what the Casio, the G-Shock.
Yeah.
That's where most of theirs are kind of falling. Is in that $350 to $400.
Really, a G-Shock's that much?
Yeah, G-Shocks are expensive.
Not worth it.
You'd be surprised.
Yeah, I'm totally surprised.
G-Shock has a low point of entry, but there's a whole bunch of them that are right in that range.
Yeah. I mean, my watch was
that are actually like good. Well, and then the ones that are Casio has the one that they have the like co-branding with the Ferrari F1.
Sure. Well, yeah. Well, sure.
Which one's that? That's $400.
Right. Okay. Yeah. But
And it's a really smart normal watch.
sure.
It's kind of an interesting. Anyways, so it's in an interesting space as far as where it is price wise. I'm going to be curious to see how they pitch it. And so they're opening the Houston Apple store is changing. It used to be the one in the Galleria. They're expanding it. It looks like they purchased the space that was directly next to them to make a larger Apple store, which is a good call. But so that means it'll have the most up-to-date layout. And so I'm curious to see what they're going to do as far as how they're going to try to place these watches and
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
because whenever you go to buy a watch, a nice watch, they're behind glass.
Yeah.
And so are they,
But that's against the. I mean, Apple doesn't put anything behind glass.
Yeah, but I don't know. I almost wonder if you put the basic ones out.
You don't. I mean, you probably don't have the editions out on the floor,
And then
right?
you
Because
have
how many
the
people are going to
editions
buy
in the
them?
back, or I don't know, on the side. I don't know how you do that. So I'm gonna be curious how they do that too. But really, there's a lot of stuff that we still don't know about it.
Right, but
battery life being primary, but it's an interesting device.
Battery life and how the pricing scales,
and
right?
how the pricing scales.
Because I honestly, I'm pretty committed to buying one of these things. Obviously not the edition, probably the basic one. Because it does what I want, right? What I want is a bloody smartwatch that looks all right, and this looks great. And I don't think it'll look ridiculous on my wrist, unlike the Gwatch and the Gear makes you look like a tool. So I think it solves all the basic problems that we've been thinking about with smartwatches, except battery life. And the fact that they're like, if Apple has really solved something, they brag about it as if they had the idea. They were the only ones who ever had that idea, right? When the iPad was announced, one of its biggest selling point was 10 hours of battery life. That was one of the leads on that thing, was 10 hours of battery life.
Because
and you're
at
like,
the time,
holy
the only
cow,
thing that could do 10 hours of battery life was a netbook.
No, not even. I mean, my netbooks are
the highest netbook battery life you could get was 10 hours.
Right.
That was the
I mean, this
brand
was
new.
This
And
was
it
like
couldn't actually. It would get like 6.
this was like mind blowing, and it actually did it. And so like they led with that. We have just fundamentally. They say innovation in battery. None of this is ever innovation in battery. It's innovation in processor battery suck, which is a slightly different thing. And so that was one of the big selling points. They did not talk. They talked about functionality and how full powered and customizable and apps and all of these things, and just like the Retina display that looks fabulous. Battery life. What is a day? Whose day is it? Is it my day? My day starts tomorrow at 6 a.m. and keeps on rolling through 11 p.m. Is that the day that I'm going to be able to get? Because this watch makes it through that day. I can tell the time.
This makes it through 6 days.
Right.
That's how long this makes it.
Yeah. But that is a fundamentally less ambitious product.
This isn't a less ambitious product. However, this is currently the smartwatch with the longest battery life.
Sure, but that's like saying the Kindle is currently the tablet with the best battery life.
No.
Well, it is. I mean, yeah, it's a flat panel thing for looking at content. The Kindle is the thing with the tablet with the best battery life, because I can go a month on, because it's essentially sucks no power. Although
but doesn't matter.
Mine keeps dying, so no.
Mine just got charged back up. My Nook.
Because I just don't use it.
This is the Simple Touch, the original.
Yeah, the battery life's the big liability, and will be, and I think will be the problem with this gen. And so here's the deal, right? At that price, is this really something you upgrade every year? I mean, obviously Apple will iterate it every year, but if you're spending, so you're spending $350, which sounds like almost no one will spend $350. People will probably be spending more like $400 to $500 on this. Is that really?
We're paying iPad money for these things.
And yet, the battery life is going to be the thing that improves most rapidly. So if you're not an early adopter, Apple, the second version of Apple's thing, is always the best.
So just wait.
Right. I mean, the 3G was heads
Well,
and
the other
shoulders
thing they could
above
do-
the Gorilla, the Silverback, etc.
They could figure some. I remember when they announced the iPad. We had the rumors beforehand, and everyone was thinking $1,000.
$1,000.
No
Yeah.
way. They're not gonna do it. 900 maybe.
800 was like the base I heard, and it starts at $499.
$499.
And that's the other
what
thing. Our jaws hit
people
the floor.
Went crazy.
Jaw hit the floor. The battery life and the price. I was like, so I literally like, where can I buy that thing? I bought it right away. Sold.
And I don't think that. I think that the reception to the smartwatch is a little. Apple's watch is a little tepid.
Yeah,
And
but
that's-
certainly in some quarters.
And so I think that's why I really do think that I want to see. I want to see when we get the full announcement.
But look, this is better than anything Android Wear has to offer. Full stop. The end. And it has just killed the Android Wear market for Christmas. Killed
That's
it.
true. No,
Killed it
that's-
dead. That's why they did this announcement now, is to kill it dead.
Well, Android Wear market. Anybody
Sucks.
with half a brain should stay out of it until next year, anyways, because the manufacturers can't figure out what the hell they're doing.
Only one of them is
They're
worth buying.
Everyone's just throwing it at the wall, just going whatever. Let's see if it sticks.
Right.
So just wait till next year.
So I want to bring up one more point, and then we do need to move on to other things that Apple announced. This is just the iteration of the Nano with the watch clip. That's all. That's what this is. Like down to the detachable bands. All of, like the patent photos we said, oh, that just looks like a Nano with a detachable band. That's all this is. This is a well-designed Nano with a detachable band. That was literally their smartwatch idea. Was, hey, let's take this computer
Thing.
and give it detachable bands. Okay, what shape is it? The shape of an iPod, the old iPod Nano. Like, that's what that I mean. This is just that.
The other comment that I'm going to make before we move on is if you look at this next to so at the end of the presentation they're showing this next to the new iPhones that we're going to talk about later, and me being in the middle of drafting work, I look at it and I go, the curve of the sides is the same.
Yep. Mm-hmm. No, the same colors
So
too.
very, very smart design language.
It's
they
Johnny
got going.
Ive, man. He's a thing. Speaking of other things Johnny Ive spit out, tell me about the phones.
So not one, but two phones,
And neither of them suck.
two new phone,
Actually
form
new
factors.
phones.
Actually
Not like
new
the
phones.
iPhone 5C.
So this,
Keep talking.
so we had announced the iPhone 6 and the 6 Plus,
Plus.
the Plus.
Plus.
So I'm just gonna hit the high notes. So the 6 is a 4.7-inch phone. It looks very much the same as the iPhone 5S.
It looks more like a iPhone 5S
Except-
mated with the silverback.
No. So first thing I
got the
thought was
rounded
silverback.
corners.
Second thing I thought was it is a smaller iPod or iPad Mini.
Yeah.
It's
same
the
idea.
same. It's got that same kind of look with the holes, the way that everything is going on it. It's the same exact design language as the iPad Air and the iPad Mini with Retina,
Yeah, which looked a lot like the silverback.
which looks a lot like Silverback. It's got the rounded edges
Yep,
on
which
it.
is the big thing.
It's completely aluminum back except for some small plastic bars.
To allow for it to not be a complete Faraday cage.
So to not, iPhone 4.
Which
That's all I have to
was-
say about that.
No
what
Gorilla
else
Glass
do
on
we
the
have?
back.
So on the 4.7-inch screen, we have a Retina screen, as everyone should have expected. The Retina screen,
750p.
yeah, it's 1334 by 750 pixels.
Just not a resolution. Bless you.
Because reasons. It's 326 ppi for those of you that are counting. What else do we have? We have and then on the Plus, which is a 5.5-inch screen, it's a 1080p by 1920 by 1080.
That's a real resolution.
It's a real resolution.
That's 400 something ppi.
Yeah, it's just over 400 ppi. 401 actually.
Hey,
So the comparisons that people were making compared to a Galaxy Note 3, which is 5.7 inches, the Plus is actually just slightly smaller. It's about the same size and about the same thickness, which is somewhat surprising in that they've got, a pen in the Note and they don't in the.
Same thing. What's the thickness on the Galaxy Note?
I don't have that
because it's
at
71
hand.
millimeters for the Plus.
No, I've got okay. So let's see. I've got thickness on the. Of course, I flipped off of the story that had 6 Plus.
It's 71 millimeters.
No, 7.1 millimeters, and then the the 6.9 millimeters. No, it's not 71. I'm talking about the thickness, not the
right. Yeah,
it's not 71 millimeters. Rethink your math. 7.1.
It's just short of a centimeter.
7.1 millimeters.
Whatever.
Just trust me.
Sure.
Just
what is it on
the 5S was 7.4.
Right, so it's thinner. I mean, it's thinner than the 5S. Now I get that, but
at the end of the day, that's all that really matters.
What's the comparison to the Galaxy? You say it's.
That was someone else's observation with the Galaxy Note.
This is what we get for you. Talk.
I got this. Dimensions. It is. Oh, okay. It's 8.3 millimeters. I'm gonna go with we're getting to the point where it does not matter.
I don't know. But anytime I ever make that argument, the thinness doesn't matter, then it does. Like people just want ever thinner devices.
It's that. At what point does that delta not matter? I think that more importantly on this is the fact that the rounded corners on it make it more comfortable to hold, and so you don't feel like it's a block of just crap in your hand, for lack of a better term. It's actually a refined device. It's got the headphone port on the bottom, A8 processor in both of them.
Yep.
You're going to get longer battery life out of the Plus. The battery life rating for the 6 is, off the top of my head, 11 hours, and off the 6 Plus is 19, almost 20 hours. Mm-hmm. So basically, anyone that is thinking about a larger phone, I've just been recommending get the 6 Plus because you're always going to complain about your phone not lasting long enough. So you might as well get the one with the larger battery in it.
That one's almost probably for me almost 2 days of use.
Yeah, probably.
We'll see, but that might be. Look, I need a new phone. You do
need a new phone.
Need a new phone.
Apple claims it'll get you 24 hours of talk time, whereas and
it's doing a voice over LTE.
24 hours, and iPhone 6 will only get you 14.
Sure. Look, here's the thing: it's the same motherboard between those two devices. So if you have the same motherboard and a bigger case, what do you fill it with? Battery. It's what Android's been doing for years. Why Android's been doing that is because traditionally Android has been crap on batteries.
Well, and then they started shoving larger screens into them, high resolution screens.
But part of the big screen thing was to make room for a big battery. The need for battery is part of what has been driving this screen thing for a while.
Okay, let's see what else do we have. NFC. So NFC finally comes to the iPhone after years and years and years of it not coming.
Yeah, and actually it's coming in a meaningful way with this integrated payment thing that we're going to talk about in a minute.
They have a thing to make it make sense.
They have a thing to make it make sense. They have a thing to do a thing.
They have a thing to do a thing on a thing. Pre-orders start on the 12th, and it'll be available in stores starting on the 19th.
Yeah, 9 days from now. I will be in line.
The other thing is that iPhone 6, $199 for 16 gig, as you would expect. So the 5S becomes the $99, and the 5C becomes the free phone.
Becomes free like a bird.
And then the
4S is finally not for sale.
You can no longer buy a 4S. Hallelujah.
That's news.
And the 6 Plus will retail for $299, which is right in line with all the other phablets.
And what's interesting is the next step up isn't 32, it's 64. And the next step up to that is 128.
No, it's 128. That makes sense. From 64 to 128.
Yeah, 64 to 128. But they're going 16, 64, 128.
They're really trying to give you a reason to actually jump to the next version up.
Yeah, it's just that means I'm $400.
At the bottom.
I'm $400 into iPhone.
You have 3 color options: silver, gold, and space gray.
Yeah, so silver.
I'm sure it's silver champagne, because I think that was what they called the color.
Champagne was champagne, silver, and space gray.
I mean, realistically, these look like good devices. That's all I've really got on it. You've got
so the 5.5 inch one has 2 different modes. So there's a couple.
Oh,
there's
that's
a couple
right, the software
differentiators.
things.
There's a couple differentiators to talk about with the iPhone 6 Plus. One is
Oh,
it has.
I missed the optical image stabilization.
Yeah, okay,
on the
that's
camera.
where I'm going. So there's three things that are different. One's the better battery life. Two is it has some software tricks. So there's a reachability mode, which they demoed to make it easier for a baby hands. That's not the horizontal thing. Make it easier for in vertical for a baby hands man, in a portrait for a baby hands man
I've
like me
missed that part
to
of
reach
the-
it.
the
You know,
keynote.
they had some streaming problems. The other software thing is it has a new horizontal or landscape mode where you can do a whole bunch of 2-column apps, and so you actually works more like an iPad when it's tipped over into landscape, and it has a special reachability mode for when it's tipped over into portrait, which is great, and actually might make it both more productive on the one side and more usable for a small hands man like me, or maybe women or children. Really, children is the accurate comparison for my hands specifically. Most women have larger hands, certainly larger fingers than I do. Way more information than anyone needed. The other thing is, besides, is the battery. And then there's optical image stabilization in the camera, which is a first on an iPhone.
But there's also, other than that, so the 6, and Trey, you can correct me if I'm wrong on this. We have the same camera. We have an 8-megapixel camera, but I think it's the same camera as we had on the 5S.
I don't know that off the top of my head. It has 1.5.
No one has reported on it.
Right. I mean, it's still an 8-megapixel, which means certainly isn't a megapixel bump. It seems to be doing some different things with its pixels, so I don't think it's the same camera. It may be. I mean, it's certainly similar, but it's not the same. I don't think it's the same because they do have some. They're doing some different things with how the pixels work, in terms of autofocus and stuff like that. So no, I don't think so. But I don't know for sure.
The focus pixel feature,
The focus
which
pixel, yeah. The focus
take on
pixel.
face detection.
Yeah.
So
I mean, they talked a lot about the cameras.
it's got a new sensor.
The camera, it'll now do 240 frames a second at 720p.
It's bigger pixels with a larger aperture. It's an f2.2.
Yep.
Which is probably.
I mean,
It says. Here it says, while Apple claimed in the keynote that the new camera had bigger pixels and a larger aperture lens, it appears to be exactly the same on the 6 as it was on the 5S.
sure, but I mean,
And that's Engadget that I'm quoting on that.
sure, but they've also added 240 frames a second slow motion video, which is crazy, because up until not all that long ago in history, like 320 frames a second was the best slow-mo you could get, and now you can do close to that on your smartphone,
Which is awesome.
They are not lying when they say this is the best phones they've ever made, but we say that every year.
It is actually the best phone they've ever made.
I think this, design-wise, I think this is on the same level as the iPhone 4, which if anyone who listens to the show long enough knows I love the iPhone 4 in terms of design. I think in terms of step forward, this is the biggest step forward since the 3G. In terms of functionality, in terms of design, in terms of how it changes. This is
a big step.
Apple swung for the fences here. No one can say this is purely iterative. No, this is... Now, admittedly, a lot of these things Android phones do.
This is iterative. It is not purely iterative.
It's not purely iterative. For Apple, this is a substantial step forward, and not just in screen size, but in terms of all of the packaging to go around with it. They went from 2 years ago, they went to 4-inch screens for the first time. Now they're up to 5.5, which is going to really hurt the iPad mini. What I am really looking forward to is the iPod Touch based on the iPhone 6 Plus.
Oh, I would get that.
That thing is going to be sweet.
I would buy that.
Sweet. Like, yeah. I'm buying the Plus. I think it's going to look ridiculous in my hand.
Oh, yeah. It's going to look ridiculous in your hands.
I mean, it's going to look comical. But battery life, image stabilization. I mean, that's my backup camera when my DSLR dies. I've done this a lot of times when I'm out like shooting a thing. I fall back to my iPhone because I go, hey, it's good enough. I mean, it's HD. It'll look all right as long as it's B-roll and it's moving quickly. And now I can do that with optical image stabilization. It's going to have...
That's a lot harder to say than you think it is.
Yeah. It now also has autofocus during video. Active autofocus during video, which is something
something that just got added to the Canon 70D.
70D. I mean, this is a DSLR level feature, as is the focus pixels. I mean, this is definitely in my running for device of the year right now. I mean, this is to me, this is up there with the Surface Pro 3 in terms of what it constitutes as a step forward for that sector. I think this is right now one of the best phones in the market. It is. I'd have to look at the Note Edge.
I'm waiting. I'm going to wait to make that call until I know that the new Nexus phone is going to get announced.
I mean, that's the only thing that, to me,
the new Moto X looks interesting.
It's not
interesting. It's not one of the best phones. It's interesting.
It's interesting. I really think the Galaxy Note Edge is interesting.
Yeah, that's interesting too.
And I think that's the one where I look at it and go, huh, maybe that one. I know the Edge display sounds kind of dumb, but the Note always seemed kind of dumb, and yet here we are talking about it still, years on.
And then the HTC M8 Windows phone.
The HTC One M8 with Windows Phone.
It's the dumbest name.
I thought the One M8 was a dumb name, and then they tacked on versions. So don't look at me. I think it's all kind of dumb. Phone naming is terrible. Apple is the only one with sensible phone naming at this point. Right, but the Nexus 5, it is at least the fifth Nexus, right?
It is the fifth Nexus. I think we counted this out when I got it.
Nexus.
We had the original Nexus.
The Nexus,
which is the Nexus 1.
Nexus 1.
I think that was the original Nexus.
Galaxy Nexus.
Nexus. No, it was the Nexus S. Galaxy Nexus.
Yeah.
Nexus 4.
Nexus 4, Nexus 5?
Nexus 5.
Okay, so at least it's not just because it's a 5-inch screen, it is also the fifth Nexus. Because, the iPhone 6, the sixth iPhone. That's such a lie.
Every year this becomes even worse.
Okay, so maybe it's not the most sensible name, but it is at least a naming convention you can keep track of, and it doesn't change.
It's the 8th iPhone.
Is it? Silverback, 3G.
Came out 2007. That's how I'm doing.
3GS, 4, 4S, 5, 5C, 5S.
I'm not counting 5C as a different phone.
I'm sorry, it's a different phone.
Oh. It's a 5 with different packaging.
Yes, sure.
I'm talking about flagships. I don't know. That's why I'm ignoring the 5C.
But that's still an iPhone.
But here's the question.
So it's the 9th.
So, and the 10th?
And the 10th. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll buy that. Yes, it's the 9th and the 10th iPhone. They are different enough of a device. We usually think of different form factor with Apple as a different device. See Jeff Bakalar's comments. The 4S isn't a new phone. I hate everybody.
So, one of the features that we got, though, with this is NFC. And it's actually a useful feature because of something else that Apple announced, Apple Pay.
Apple Pay. Not Pay Apple, which is usually what I do. This is Apple Pay.
Constantly without apparent remorse.
God. Thousands of dollars all the time. So Apple Pay is an NFC-enabled payment system. It is an entire payment ecosystem that is compatible with the latest generation of NFC-based payment terminals by the big three in credit cards: Amex, MasterCard, Visa. They partnered with all three companies, so as they roll out their newest generation of NFC-enabled tap-to-pay systems, it's going to be compatible eventually with 83% of credit card usage. 83% of credit card transactions would be eligible for, they partner with the people who hold about 83% of the credit card market. So this is not a small thing, and they had a slew of retailers announce for this thing. Here's the basics. You load your card into your phone, either by taking a picture of it or typing it in. It is then stored in a super secure sector of the phone cut off from everything else called the secure element. It is not, I repeat, not sent up to iCloud. It is stored locally on the phone. Apple has no access to that payment information. It then, when
You can use your iTunes payment information.
Sure. Yeah, and Apple has
announced
that. I mean,
that.
Apple has that. I get that. But you can store multiple cards on this thing again, so I can load my Wells Fargo,
Passbook.
my Wells Fargo Visa, and my Amex Platinum, whatever. It actually is stored in Passbook. Literally, it is stored in Passbook. But that your credit card information is only stored in the secure element, deep down in this in super encrypted place in your iPhone. Now, security people can look at what that is, but it's sounding real secure. You then go to anywhere that has one of these payment terminals, hold it near, press your thumb against the fingerprint reader on your phone, you've paid. And it has tokenized your credit card information. So what it does is it generates a one-time credit card number only used for that transaction and a one-time dynamic security code. So even if there's like a Target or Home Depot style credit card hack, who cares? That was a one-time code. So it's an
Or if
additional.
there's a retailer that you really can't trust, so my credit cards there's some retailer here in my area that keeps, I'm sure, stealing my credit card information.
Right, done.
And I don't know who it is, but they keep stealing it.
So with this
Would solve that problem.
solves that problem. Doesn't matter. Every transaction you do, one-time code, dynamic security code. And again, Apple has no one gets to see your actual credit card information. That's between you and your credit card company, which already has that information. They gave it to you, right? They get hacked. We're all done.
Which they do.
And you can also tap the watch. So it is built in two-factor security. So not only three-factor, really, it's secured in a secure element, one-time code, and fingerprint verification for purchases. All in one seamless, wave the phone with your thumb pressing against the thing, boom, you've paid. Square, your days are numbered. I mean, your days are like, this is mobile payments essentially solved. They have the buy-in from the credit card companies. It's not like, oh, you need a special Apple-only terminal. No, it's just baked into the terminals that all of the credit card companies are in the process of, all the big three are in the process of rolling out. I mean, right now, and they have major retailers like Bloomingdale's and Nike and Sephora and those are
Target.
and Target and Whole Foods.
And Starbucks.
I mean, this is
Guess who else Starbucks is partnered with?
Square.
Square.
Again, Square, your days are numbered. Like, you're done. If you're invested in Square, sell. Like, you're done. Square's over. Because Square was, the big thing with the iPhone anyways.
No,
So,
I don't know.
I mean, Square is a credit.
No, there's still value in Square, and it's
just
not
just as a
not
credit
this.
card reader. Just as a credit card reader. Not as like you don't have to pull your phone in your pocket, the location, the local
No one ever
geofencing.
used that.
I know. I keep
Except for
always
Silicon Valley.
No, I keep
no one
trying
has
to
it set up.
No, they have it set up. And I was like, oh, I want to pay with the app. How do I do that? Oh God. It's supposed to be easier. If I had to tell you how to do this, it would have just been faster to pull out my card. And this is just, let me pay with, tap to pay. Tap. You paid. It's great. This isn't my favorite announcement because I think this is just my favorite Apple series of announcements in years. Since the iPad.
I think Apple Pay is the best thing they announced.
I don't know.
That's how I feel.
I think for you, it is because it's going to normalize NFC for everybody, right? This is what Apple has the ability to do, and I think they're also going to do it with smartwatches. But NFC has had a hard time taking off in this country. It's been the norm in Japan for years, maybe a decade or more, but it hadn't really caught on here. Now, our biggest single phone manufacturer, for the U.S. market, now says we're all in on NFC. That is now the impetus retailers need to say, okay, now we're all in on NFC. The most valuable company in the world is now all in on NFC.
No, I think what's more important than that actually is the fact that they went out and they got the
deals.
partners.
They got the deals
They
that
got
they
the
couldn't get with the Apple
partners to do
TV. Like this is I hate to go back to the unicorn that is now probably never coming, but that's because they couldn't get the deals with the relevant companies. Here, without anyone really knowing about it, they have Amex, Visa, and MasterCard. I'm sorry, Discover, you just got screwed.
Well, and if Discover wants it, they'll get on the
Right,
bandwagon
now they'll jump
and
on
get in it.
jump on the bandwagon.
They've been having this problem forever, by the way.
Right. Tap Pay. It's secure. It's certainly more secure than your 1970s era card. It's more secure than most other tap to pay systems because it has the fingerprint verification or the passcode verification on the iWatch. So you can authenticate. So you can authenticate the iWatch using a passcode, one-time passcode, and then as long as it's still pressed against your skin, it's authenticated. So you don't have to keep typing in a bloody passcode because they all kind of realize that sucks on that small of a screen. As long as it's maintaining contact with your skin, which obviously it can sense because it'll sense your heartbeat, you can just tap your watch. And but you don't have to pull out your phone. Just tap your watch. Again, secure element, one-time code, one-time dynamic security code. I'm sold on this. I just hope that those tap-to-pay systems roll out fast enough. And that they can clearly identify. Well, I don't know. I mean, I see them in they're showing up, and
I haven't seen any. But
well, in the U.S. next year has to go to all chip and pin, anyways. So, credit card companies, everyone has to be buying new credit card readers. It's next year.
Is it like the Europe one?
Yeah, like Europe, like my Amex, where it has a
because I just got a new Chase card
with a chip and pin. Right, so that's chip and pin, and it's what's been in Europe for 10 years. But so now we all have to go to that by next year. So all of these new credit card, like Walmart, it's already bought all new credit card readers. Like I can now do a chip transaction with my Amex, which is weird. So everyone's gonna be buying new credit card readers. So this is the perfect time to do it. So you just buy the one with the NFC, tap to pay, tap to pay. I mean, Apple. Sometimes, man. Sometimes. On that note, it's probably time to end. This has been quite a show. This is what we've got. This is the news this week. There will be an episode of T4 up in a couple days talking about Destiny and The Sims 4. One we like, one we don't like, and you can find out which. If you have any feedback for the show, podcast at textlesscall.com, facebook.com/textlesscall, pinterest.com/textlesscall, or at textlesscall on the Twitters. However you find us, we'll be seeing you on the interwebs. Apple, man. Apple.
Sometimes,
man. Apple. That's the show title. Sometimes, man. Apple.